Let's begin by tracing India's economic growth since independence. The period from 1950 to 1980 was marked by slow progress, often referred to as the Hindu rate of growth. Despite ambitious plans, India struggled to achieve rapid development due to factors like heavy regulation, limited private sector participation, and a focus on self-sufficiency. Nehru Mahalanobis strategy emphasized public sector expansion and industrialization, but agricultural neglect and bureaucratic hurdles limited overall growth. However, the 1991 economic reforms marked a turning point, liberalizing the economy, encouraging foreign investment, and boosting the services sector. Since then, India has experienced periods of high growth, especially between 2003 and 2008, often called the Golden Era. Yet, sustaining a high per capita income growth rate remains a challenge due to persistent structural issues. India's growth story is deeply influenced by its major economic sectors: agriculture, industry, and services. Agriculture, despite its achievements in food grain production, faces challenges in growth, equity, and sustainability. Industrialization, especially post-1991, saw mixed results, with concerns about premature deindustrialization and stagnation. Services sector, on the other hand, has become a powerhouse, driving exports and integrating India into the global economy. The rise of global value chains, GVCs, and trade policy reforms have opened new opportunities, but also exposed the economy to global shocks such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Policy measures aimed at boosting infrastructure, liberalizing services, and supporting exports are crucial for future growth. Each sector's performance is interconnected, shaping India's overall development trajectory. India's demographic transition is a defining feature of its development. Concepts like demographic dividend deposit and debt highlight the opportunities and risks associated with a young population. If harnessed well, the demographic dividend can fuel economic growth, but it requires investments in education, health, and job creation. Inclusive growth remains a central policy goal, aiming to ensure that the benefits of development reach all sections of society. Key indicators include poverty reduction, employment generation, and equitable access to resources. The Rangarajan Committee's methodology for poverty measurement and ongoing labor market reforms reflect efforts to address these challenges. As India looks ahead, balancing rapid growth with inclusiveness and sustainability will be essential for achieving long-term prosperity. Looking forward, India faces several critical challenges and opportunities. Achieving and sustaining a high growth rate, especially a per capita income growth of 7% or more, requires strategic policy actions. These include strengthening infrastructure, fostering innovation, and deepening integration with global value chains. The government must also address persistent issues in agriculture, industrial stagnation, and the need for further liberalization in services. Social policies aimed at reducing poverty, improving labor market flexibility, and ensuring inclusive growth are equally important. The lessons from past strategies such as the Nehru Mahalanobis Plan and the 1991 reforms offer valuable insights. By building on these foundations and adapting to new global realities, India can aspire to a more prosperous and equitable future.